Our culture influences the way in which we interpret big data. If we do not understand that, we risk ending up with the wrong results. Watch and listen to Tripylon Media's Sirous Kavehercy and learn why you should put your cultural perspective to one side now and again.
Thank you. It's good to be here. As Mark mentioned, my presentation will be taking a different angle than what you are used to with big data. And I hope to send you out with more questions than answers. And so let's see how far we get. Why culture makes big data bigger? So it's not that big data is not good, but you can just take more out of the data if you look at it more analytically. There is an Arabic proverb about culture. Culture is so integral in our daily life that we hardly think about it. And if I ask you what is Dutch culture, what is American culture, what is Chinese culture, there is not a clear answer because you don't know. That's how you live. And you always do things based on a reference point, the way you have learned to think, you've learned to act, you've learned to co-work, you've learned to create. That influences us basically as every step of the day, and we never think about it. And it is like water to fish. You can never ask a fish who discovered sea because sea, what? That's where I live in. I don't know. And it becomes very interesting when you look at a variety of ways that scientists have used to compare cultures with one another. There are a few terms in there, and I think you recognize a few of them. Time is one of those things that is different across cultures. Yeah? So when you make an appointment with an Italian colleague and they show up half an hour late, you wonder why they do that. For them, it's normal. But in a Dutch culture, you would not do that. Or hierarchy, concept of hierarchy, how much respect you have got for your boss. Relationships in the society, whether you put the more focus on the I or the we. And that is very crucial for marketing and communications, how you bring out your message to the public. And how pragmatic are you in making decisions? How can you handle uncertain situations? What happens if the market suddenly changes? How do you react to it? And these are all cultural. So what does this have all to do with big data? Big data, you can make it or break it with data accuracy and interpretation. And data accuracy, of course, we can have a long discussion about it on the internet, which is not always accurate, but the interpretation is actually the most important part. Big data needs context in order for it to work. And the interpretation is partly the information, which we love, the data that we have. We analyze it, we take information out of it, we see patterns of behavior, patterns of action, and then you need to interpret that. And you cannot do that out of context. You need to know where you do that. So culture is very important in interpreting what you have found in big data. Just a few cases to make that more clear. Let's first look at China, which is the hot topic right now, of course, with Alibaba being so huge. And we always look at China as being far behind with a lot of, let's say, topics of communication and society. But actually, they are light years ahead when it comes to social business, when it comes to marketing through word of mouth, when it comes to technologies and put to use for mobile payment and e-commerce. And of course, the big giant in there is Alibaba Group, which recently IPO'd with the largest IPO ever in US history. And so Alibaba exists only for 15 years. And they beat eBay and Amazon out of their markets. Usually the complaint is that, well, they do not let foreign companies get their foot in the door in the country. That's not the case because eBay was there long before Alibaba. But they could not manage because they went there with an idea, with a thinking, and they had access to all the data, but they did not survive because Alibaba understood that people in the rural areas, they did not have internet access 10 years ago. So they did their advertising on big TVs in order to gain access to their business. And more limitations in China. Well, culturally, they are a very communicative people. They talk a lot to each other. It's collectivistic culture. And they didn't have credit systems, so they did not have ways to lend, borrow money from the banks because their credit history could not be checked, so they would not get money. So Alibaba thought, okay, I'm going to introduce a new credit system, and I'm going to give you money. And currently, they are handling almost a million applicants for online loans. And the risk management is purely done through big data. Because Alibaba, unlike what you might think, is not Amazon and is not eBay. It's Amazon plus eBay, plus Google, plus Dropbox, plus Facebook, plus Twitter, all of these things together. So they have huge amount of data. And when they have got thousands of data sets, and when they compare them together, and they find out, is this guy trustable or not? What is his reputation? How many goods has he sold? And what do people say about his delivery time? And out of that comes a credit rating. And then they say, okay, do you get the money or not? So real time, they can help the small businesses to get loans in order to perform better. So this is big data put to use in that culture, because these people had never got access to this financial support. And because of this way of thinking, they are. So they are still competing with the big major players using big data efficiently. Another example I thought I would give you is from India. A challenge that we have always had in Europe is monetizing the relationship that we have with the consumers, with our clients, right? Because we have all this data, what do we do with it? In India, they don't have credit cards as much as we have here. They don't have mobile payments capabilities as we have here. So, and they don't have that many smartphones. They still have a lot of feature phones. So what vServe did, is an Indian company, they have signed agreement with over 100 operators in the region. And they now have access to 500 million subscribers. And what they do is they have got a billing system now. So people can buy on their mobile phones and they pay through the mobile operator system. So they solve that problem. And they have created, and that's actually the most innovative part, all the data that they get from the advertisers, from the behavior of the people, from whether you are a postpaid or prepaid, let's say customer, how high your credit is. Yeah? So they will not give you an offer if they know that your credit is low, because you are not going to buy it, right? So they look at all those aspects before they offer you something. And as I said, they have turned around a mobile-first ecosystem into something which is monetizable, just by knowing what culturally works and what doesn't. And if you look at social media companies like Facebook, India is going to be the first, let's say the largest population of Facebook on Earth within a few months, with 150 million subscribers on Facebook. But Facebook doesn't make a penny in India. They have not figured out why. And that's because they do not understand how the culture works over there. And they are scratching their heads. And that's actually the big giant of big data. They have 1.3 billion users, so much data and communication. And 70% of subscribers of Facebook are residing outside Western Europe and US. And only 30% of the revenue comes from there. And the challenging part for Facebook is, of course, their business model is advertising based. And advertisement doesn't work in all those regions. And that is the challenge. So they will not make money in India, they will not make money in China, and not in Japan. And they need to change. So the big data alone, without knowledge of local culture, is basically worth nothing. And with that, I want to leave you with the final words from Einstein. We need to start doing things differently. And we need to pay attention to other things around us and not just be blinded by the data itself, because you can get a lot more out of it. That was it. Thank you.